the WiiM Amp. Curious if the software updates WiiM pushes out have made it better? You should be. Hi, and welcome. I'm Hunter Gray, and this is Hunter-Gray-LUV-Music. And I started this channel because I wanted to help you reach your hi-fi happy place. And to me, music is just awesome. And listening to my favorite music is super important to me. Listening to music grounds me throughout my day. And that means I want my music to sound beautiful when I play it. So that's why we're here. We're talking about hi-fi gear because your hi-fi gear and my hi-fi gear helps or hurts how the music that we love sounds. So maybe you'll enjoy slowing down for a few minutes and just watch and enjoy while we have a chat about have all those software updates for the WiiM amp made it better. Well, actually, before we take a look at the specs, I want to note that the WiiM specs are a moving target. And I mean they're a moving target in a very good way. I love that WiiM is very much a tech-enabled company. Now, what do I mean by this? My background is working with tech SaaS, software as a service. And I am not a software engineering manager, and I'm not a software engineer, but I have worked consultatively with software engineering teams. And it's clear from the consistent and regular software updates that WiiM pushes out, they have an excellent and very well managed software engineering teams. And you and I benefit from that. I personally place a high value on these bug fixes and security updates, software enhancements, and feature improvements and brand new features that they push out consistently. As I've mentioned before, for several years now, I've had 3 WiiM minis, the little hockey puck. I've got them in 3 rooms. Then when I heard that WiiM had pushed out room correction software for the WiiM Pro, I picked up one of those. And now I wanted to explore the WiiM Amp. So I have experience with the WiiM Home app for several years. So what it means with your WiiM purchases is that the hardware actually improves with age. And this is the value of software. The hardware that you purchase and I purchase from WiiM remains the same as the foundation. And then WiiM continues to upgrade, metaphorically, the kitchen and the bathrooms, and even adds rooms and more square footage upstairs and whole new floors, so to speak, onto the hardware foundation that I purchased, in this case, a while back. Allow me to add some more hard data to how WiiM is truly a tech company. If you grab your smartphone and you go to your app store, whether it's Android or iPhone, and you search for, but don't click on, so search for WiiM Home, but don't click on open. Click on the name WiiM Home app. And that will give you that information that, you can peruse, decide whether you want to click download. Well, in the upper right, it says version history. And if you look at the version history for the WiiM Home app, and you do the same thing for Blue Sounds app, and for the EverSolo app. To me, these are the leaders, Blue Sound, WiiM, and EverSolo. They're the leaders when it comes to streaming and hi-fi audio. But when you click where it says version history, this will show you each of these apps' history of their releasing the new software updates. Now, this is super important. WiiM they have done 5 software updates per month. They actually have done 25 software update releases over the past 5 months. That averages 5 per month, more than 1 per week. And if you take a look at the Blue Sound node and do the same thing, click on the version history, Blue Sound in the past 12 months has only released 10 software updates in the past 12 months. EverSolo has released 20 software updates over the past 12 months. That's about 1.66 per month. Now, let's compare WiiM's software updates history to a true tech SaaS companies like Spotify and Tidal. Spotify has released 25 software updates in the past 6.5 months. Tidal has released 25 software updates in the past 6 months. Now remember, WiiM over the past 5 months has released 25 software updates. What you should note is that both Spotify and Tidal are tech SaaS, software as a service companies that earn MRR, monthly recurring revenue, that their customers, like you and I, pay each month for our subscription. And they basically push out weekly software firmware release updates. And those contain security fixes, bug fixes, feature upgrades, new features. Now, WiiM gives their customers that same level of software support and development, but you're only paying for the hardware one time. And so, again, as I run through the specs on the WiiM Amp, I'm going to highlight this point, refer to this quite a bit, because I love the fact that WiiM has that commitment to fixing, updating, and improving their product. Because when they're committed to their product that way, that means they're committed to me as their customer. And the fact that their software engineering team outpaces Spotify's and Tidal's when they are true tech SaaS companies, these are hardware companies. WiiM is, in my opinion, the leader when it comes to being a technology company in the hi-fi space. And if I were looking at Blue Sound streamer or an EverSolo streamer in WiiM, not only is WiiM much less expensive than both of those, but the support for their technology that you get is outstanding. So as I go through the specs here, since I'm going to mention the release dates, I'm going to mention that this was announced for release November 22nd in 2023 and came out either at the very end of November or early December. So the WiiM Amp specs, $299 list price, so it's a great value. The WiiM Amp Pro upgrade is $379. The power module is a Texas Instruments, what is it? The TPA 3255. Now, both Topping and SMSL have used this power module in their amps. But I will say that it is what I would call a check the box or a fine power module. I don't think it's in the league, for instance, of ICE power modules licensed from Bang & Olufsen, which I prefer. However, I was pleasantly surprised that I could not really hear a difference between the WiiM Amp and the XTZ Edge A2 300 when I A/B listened with them. The DAC chip inside here is an ESS Saber DAC. It's the 9018K2M DAC chip. That is the exact same DAC chip as my Audiolab 6000A uses, which is a $1,200. Now it's Class AB amp, but $300 Class D amp with the same DAC chip, ESS Saber chip, that the Audiolab 6000A has, which I think that's impressive. Oh, and I should point out, That's really the upgrade that you get for $79 to the Pro. Is you get the top of the line ESS Saber chip, which is the ESS or ES9038Q2M, but that's the top of the line currently ESS Saber DAC chip that on the WiiM Amp Pro for an extra $79 you can get. Now, the inputs on here, this is just clean, simple. You know, I don't think it's beautiful, but it's nondescript. I got space gray. Got your speaker inputs. These are metal, which is nice. Power. This is important, the HDMI ARC input, which means you can connect this to your TV, and because it has a sub out, you can, like, no fuss, no muss, 2.1 home theater with your TV. What a great setup for a bedroom, maybe. You've got RCA line in, which you have to select on the app, which allows you, if you want to bypass or use a better or a different DAC. But I thought this DAC sounded excellent. I wouldn't. I'm into my own components and being able to choose. I like the fact that I could in the future upgrade it, but I'm very happy with this setup. And the sub out and a SPDIF Toslink optical input. Volume control here, and it shows you with LED lights where the volume is, but I never touched that. I control the volume through the WiiM Home app. Super easy to turn on and connect to your home Wi-Fi and set up. It's so easy. It's wonderful. Let's see. I should also mention a little bit more about the subwoofer out. When you plug into the subwoofer out, and it will bring up on your WiiM Home app the sub management, which has a high pass and a low pass filter setting, as well as the sub volume control, which if you have set up more than one subwoofer, setting up subwoofers properly so that your bass doesn't have bass nulls and muddy areas as you walk around, or setting up a subwoofer properly can be a pain in the butt. So that's why, in my opinion, this subwoofer setup app, as well as the volume control, is super important because it makes your sub setup really not a big deal. It's not a pain in the butt anymore. And having that high pass and low pass filter, you can not only determine how much of the bass and the volume of the sub that you're doing, but you can take some of that lower frequency load off of the mid-range driver of your speaker. So it's really slick. And I think you have to appreciate that in a $299 integrated amp, not only does it have a sub out, but it has that type of subwoofer management, sub volume control, and low pass and high pass filter controls. It's excellent. So I will put a link in the description below that just in WiiM's website, you don't have to look for it, a step-by-step setup for using the setting up a sub with the WiiM Home app. This comes with a Bluetooth remote with voice control, but I use the excellent WiiM Home app and on my iPhone, and I never touch the remote. You may or may not know I'm not a fan of remotes. I want everything in one place on my smartphone, and WiiM is great for that. Streaming connections, this is sort of their foundation. You know, I think they are the best in class in the hi-fi industry as a streamer. They connect to everything except directly in the WiiM Home app, Apple Music, but you can use Apple AirPlay. I only use the Title Connect, and I love it. I occasionally use AirPlay if I need to play a YouTube video through the hi-fi systems on occasion, but that's rare, honestly. Now, I will note that the WiiM Home app, in my opinion, is better than the Title app, especially about staying connected. So I tend to use the Title Connect to connect to the WiiM, whichever, the Mini or the Pro or the WiiM Amp. And once the Title Connect is connected, I have signed into my Title account inside the WiiM Home app, and then I control everything, my content that I'm selecting and the volume control right inside the WiiM Home app, because I think it's better than the Title app. And the Title app is good, but it just disconnects all the time when I'm halfway through a playlist, and then I don't have to deal with that and go through that with the WiiM Home app once I've signed in with my Title. So I really like that. WiiM Amp is Roon certified. That came with firmware version 5.0.612550, which added Roon Ready certification in April of 2024. Now remember, it was announced the very end of November and came out the beginning of December 2023. So it was not until April, 5 months later, that it had Roon certification. That was one of the feature additions that came with those software update releases that we were talking about. The WiiM Amp will connect with Alexa and Google Assistant, but having also spent part of my career in cybersecurity, I don't have any of those smart home vulnerabilities in my home. I'm not into that. It's a bad idea. But few people take those security vulnerabilities seriously, not even my daughter in her house. So I will just mention that WiiM says they're compatible with all of that smart home stuff. The WiiM app also has PEQ that gives you 10 bands as well as 24 presets if EQ is your thing. And on June 13th of 2024, so 7 months after it first came out, firmware release update added room correction software to the WiiM Home app for the WiiM Amp and the WiiM Amp Pro and the WiiM Pro and the WiiM Pro Plus, not the hockey puck mini that I have in 3 rooms. So the room correction software is all done through the WiiM app. It uses your phone as the room microphone during the sweep. Android phones got support for this room correction on a software update released on August 8th of 2024. Again, you noticing all of that regular software update releases from that well-managed software engineering team that WiiM has? It comes out over time, but this has grown and changed and improved since it first became available in December of 2023. You can criticize that if you like to, but every technology company does that. Microsoft has never once released a version of Windows that was completed until the first service pack comes out for each version of Windows. The software is not complete and is full of bugs, and then it's continually updated. So that is also just another indication of they operate and behave like a technology company. Yeah, jump off the cliff and build the software on the way down. That's the way Silicon Valley and the way technology is coached and taught to operate. So I've added a link below in the description also for the WiiM Home blog that has a very clear and easy walkthrough of why and how to use the new room correction software feature. However, I got to tell you, it is so simple and easy to use the room correction software that it took me longer to find where in the WiiM Home app the room correction software feature was than it did to actually run and use it. So the room correction is really fast and simple to use. Now, I am going to say that when I A/B listened with this on and off, I think it made a difference, but certainly not as much of a difference as adding a Class A amp into my signal path. That makes a much clearer and obvious difference. Let's just say that there is a subtle difference, but it's certainly not mind expanding. And I also think that it's fair to point out that what you hear and notice with everything in hi-fi when you're critically listening, it's subject to our own personal confirmation bias based on what our personal thoughts about, in this case, room correction software and its abilities are. So I thought the change was there, but subtle. But I'm happy to have it, and I will continue to use the room correction software on when I'm playing the WiiM Amp. So how does the WiiM Amp sound? It sounds like a Class D power amp, and that's it. I did not hear any noise floor. I did not hear any distortion. I did not hear any sound coloration to the speakers. This just gets the power to your passive speakers, period, end of story. What about their ability to drive speakers to loud SPL levels without distortion? Because some online reviews had a problem with this issue. So I did 3 sets of speakers with my Zoo Dirty Weekend 6 bass model, which are 95 dB sensitive, and a little bit unusual 12 ohm at 100% on the WiiM. I was maxed out. I was able to hit 98 dBs. That's where it maxed out. I never listened that loud. I'm taking one for the team and playing at volumes to determine A, how loud it will go in SPL level measured in dB, and secondarily, is there any clipping, distortion, or any change in the sound? But on the Dirty Weekend 6, 98 dB at 100% was as far as it would go. On my Sonus Faber Lumina 5, which are 89 dB sensitive at 4 ohms, I was able to hit 100.2 dBs at 100% volume. On the KEF LS50 Meta, which are 85 dB sensitive at 8 ohms, I was able to hit 93.3 decibels, and that was as far as I could drive. So I've said this before, but I'm guessing most of you have, but we're not living in a world anymore where you have to run by Radio Shack and buy a handheld decibel meter. We all have smartphones. We can download decibel meter apps for free. Please download one and spend a week or two playing with it and determine at what decibel levels is your listening range. Oh, by the way, I meant all of those decibel levels were peaks. When you get a decibel level meter, there's the average decibels playing and the peaks. All of those numbers that I just gave you were the peak decibel level. But spend time just pleasure listening for enjoyment and look, what is the average decibel reading? What is the peak that you're hitting? And for me, I think the most important is I have discovered when the peaks start hitting about 85 dBs, I start thinking about wanting to turn it down. And when it's hitting 87, I am turning it down. So between 85 and 87, when the peaks start hitting that, I'm not enjoying it as much and I want to turn it down a click or two. You may be completely different, but I just think it's important as a fan of listening to your hi-fi and listening to beautiful music in your hi-fi happy place. What is your range of what you enjoy and when you start to want to click it down 1 or 2 notches? Oh, I should also point out that all those readings were at the point of the triangle in my listening position, which is 11 feet back in both rooms. So the important thing, I think, is, so to me, those dB levels, those peaks, all three speakers, that's higher than I will ever listen to. So to me, that's plenty of power. Your mileage may vary. What's really important is, was there any distortion or any clipping when I maxed out the WiiM Amp? And there was not. Zero distortion. I never heard any clipping on all three speakers when the WiiM Amp was at 100%. I'm very aware that Andrew Robinson posted his review, and I'm a huge fan of Andrew and Christie's channel. At the end, his review posted at the end of January 2024. Okay, about 2 months into the product life cycle of this, and before many software updates were pushed out. So he heard distortion and clipping at higher volumes. In my listening, which was done in September of 2024, I did not hear any distortion. I did not hear any clipping, even when the WiiM Amp was at 100%. And I will clearly suggest that the previously discussed weekly software update cadence that is kept by WiiM's software engineering teams should get the credit with this change and in this improvement from what I am hearing in September 2024 from what Andrew Robinson was hearing in January 2024. I will again highlight, however, that the SPL I was able to reach at 100% on the KEF and the Sonus Faber and the Zoo. Fine for me, but it really depends on what your listening level is. So I would classify the grunt has not changed with the software update. My guess is that while the quoted watts per channel are probably correct for this amp, may not have the current, or as I refer to it, the torque that I think is needed to drive SPL levels well into the triple digits measured in dBs. So as we do not get from manufacturers enough specs, or any specs usually, on the current that power amplifiers drive. We get watts per channel, but not the current that is output. And the ability for an amp to drive our speakers at sound pressure level volumes is really a factor of both watts per channel and the current they drive. It's like horsepower and torque. You need both of them. And as the old saying goes in cars, horsepower is how fast you get to the wall, and torque is how far you move the wall. I just don't think this has if you have issues with its ability to drive to sound pressure levels that you like to listen to into the triple digits, I think it's due to the current issues, not the watts per channel. But I'm not an engineer, so take that with a grain of salt. That's just my speculation. So let's see. I guess it's now time to ask you for your support. If you enjoy my take on speakers, amps, DACs, streamers, and headphones and IEMs, then I'd love to ask you to subscribe to this channel. It would really mean a lot to me. If you click the thumbs up and like the video, it makes a big difference with the YouTube algorithm. So if you're able to, please click down below in the description for the link to my Patreon. There is a Telegram chat option as well as Zoom meeting get-togethers for patrons. So please click in on the Patreon link and have a look around. Also, I want to make you aware that some but not all of the links in the description below are affiliate links that do not cost you anything, but when you buy something through an affiliate link, this channel does get a commission, which makes a big difference for the channel. So the affiliate links are really your no-cost way to show your support for the channel. But I'd love to get to know you personally by you joining my Patreon. I could get to know you and what your system is at home and what piece in your signal path you're researching and maybe considering changing or upgrading. Also, please comment down below what types of videos you'd like to see more of. Thank you again for your support for this channel. All right, quick comparison. I've kind of covered this a little bit compared to my reference Class D amplifier, the XTZ Edge 82300 Class D amp. Soundstage. I did not really hear a difference in the soundstage that it was throwing. Instrument separation and detail retrieval, I didn't really hear a difference. Treble glare, nope, none on here. I didn't hear any difference. Bass tonality between the two Class D amps, I didn't hear a difference. Bass control, I did not hear any distortion or clipping at higher volumes. And with my speakers, my music, the WiiM Amp had, at the volumes I play at, had no problem controlling the bass and delivering accurate, tight, quality bass. Again, I am SPL peaks in 80 to 85 dB, and that's about where I top out. So your mileage certainly may vary. So to me, the difference is between the XTZ Edge and the WiiM Amp is the amount of power available to drive to higher SPL levels. But that's not a relevant data point to me, but that is a fact. I think this does what a Class D amplifier is supposed to do. Power my passive speakers, not color or impact the sound by being in the signal path. Just give me the power. And the DAC, I did listen to, as I said, it's the same DAC chip from the ESS Saber as my $1,200 Class AB Audiolabs 6000A. So this is my review of the WiiM Amp. So far, we will see what else WiiM may add in future software upgrades. But as it stands now, this is simply a great value. Offers a lot of features. It does a lot of things really well. For $299, everything that this does. Now, I want you to think for a second. What can you buy in HiFi for $299? Well, I've got 3 pair of headphones that cost triple the cost of this WiiM Amp. Let's see. You can buy a Sheet Modi 3++ DAC. Shit is known for their value for money products. $140, so half price. Just a good but check the box DAC. Let's see, for twice the cost, you can buy a SMSL VMV A1 Class A amp for $660. But there's no speakers that I want that are $299. So what can you buy in HiFi that is good, that does a lot, that's $299? I think the value for money for the WiiM Amp is off the charts. Well, I want to say thank you for watching. My goal is to help you reach your HiFi happy place. But what did you think about the WiiM Amp? Do you have any preferences in your amps? Do you like Class A? Do you like Class AB? Do you like Class D tubes? Or is the WiiM Amp, based on its value, a great selection for you? Share your thoughts with me down below. And most definitely, please come back to this channel. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you again next time on the next video. Cheers for now.